Greetings, Ranger fans, and happy Halloween! Welcome back to our Database Rangers Power reviews as we look back on our classic episodes of Database Rangers Power Reviews as we count down the 100 episodes to the 100th and final episode. These are 100 weeks to our 100th and final episode. Happy Halloween, everyone. I hope you are all doing well. Sorry if I'm a little frazzled. I realized, at the last moment that I was missing a cable and had to run all around. But, thank you for joining me. I hope you're all having a wonderful Halloween weekend. So good evening, Jenny. Good evening, Lex. Hello to everyone else who's still coming in. It's hard to believe it, but we've made it to the midpoint. It's kind of blowing my mind right now that we are... that this is the halfway point on these commentaries, which means that we are only 50 weeks away from the 10-year anniversary and the final episode. I've been keeping very busy. I just had to run a haunted house for my high school students yesterday, so it's been a very busy week. Obviously, been working on the Dino Fury reviews week in, week out, so I have those to assemble tonight so that those can premiere tomorrow for episode 15 of Dino Fury. Sorry that you're not having a good day, Jenny. Sorry to hear that. Oh, nice Owl House choice there, Lex. And yeah, it's yeah, I'm sorry to hear about your teacher there, Jenny. Ouch. But yes, continuing on the updates for this week. I have been hard at work trying to get things moving on 95. We just wrapped a few more pickup shots over the last 2 days. I've been editing. I have several scenes fully edited now. But unfortunately, that means that as you may have guessed, we're not hitting that goal of releasing before the end of October. But considering where I'm at right now, I do feel fairly confident that I should be able to announce a release date by the end of October. So keep your eyes open this Sunday night, Halloween night. I hope to have a little treat for you guys and hopefully have a trailer finally ready for episode 95, which has been just such a massive undertaking. If you follow me on Twitter, you may have seen me commenting on it earlier, how filming has been spread out across 16 non-consecutive months over the course of the last 2.5 years. This has been a really big one and a really difficult one. And a lot of it's just come down to scheduling with actors. A lot of my actors have lives that have been keeping them very busy, and I've only been able to have them for maybe an hour here, hour there, for shots that take a lot to set up and take down, and their schedules have not been matching up. So it's been a challenging shoot, but it is finally all coming together. Really, the only stuff that's left to shoot is to continue with additional reference shots for the special effects that I'm working with. So I'm hoping to perform some final proper tests with those special effects. I'm hoping to edit together a few more scenes over the course of these next 2 days, and then be able to really solidly have a date for the release of 95. Oh yes, Chris. Yeah, I have seen the news about the incident on the set of Rust with Alec Baldwin, and the unfortunate lack of safety with regards to firearms, which sadly led to the loss of a cinematographer. Very tragic. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I'm sorry that it's apparently been rough times for you guys. Yeah, I'm, as I said before, very tired. Trying to prep things for RJ's first Halloween this Sunday, so trying to prioritize that along with everything else. I will say that 95, it was very much an episode that I had intended to work on primarily over the course of this summer, and because 93 got pushed late because of actor availability due to the pandemic, as well as other things, I ended up having 94 be the summer episode, which worked well with the anniversary of Power Rangers on August 28th. But that meant that I didn't have the summer to work on 95 as thoroughly. And the fact that I am as far along on 95 as I currently am, considering it's during the school year, while I'm working on the Dino Fury reviews, while I also was working on the big 9-year anniversary video, the fact that it's as far along as it is something that I still feel very good about. Even though it is behind schedule, it is probably not as far behind schedule as it really probably should be, considering where I was at the beginning of the school year and how much I've been working on since the school year started. Welcome, Dan. Good to see you as well. Yeah, so a little overwhelmed, a little burnt out. And for anyone who's seen my 9-year anniversary video, you've seen some of my process and how exhausting it can be. So you know what? Let's jump on in, and let's not forget, as always, our 3 equally non-controversial phrases. So, number 1, say it with me, chat. Black lives matter. Number 2, say it with me, chat. Fascism is bad. And number 3, say it with me, chat. Superheroes are fun. So let us celebrate hitting the midway point with our favorite superhero, Database Ranger, with episode 50 of Database Ranger's Power Reviews. This is our review of the 19th episode of Power Rangers Megaforce, The Messenger. And
previously on our review,
I'm blown away by the fact that the first 50 episodes of Power Reviews were completed in about 15 months. Like, that is insane that I managed to do the first 50 episodes in under 15 months. Especially considering it has since taken me another almost 8 years since then to do the following 45.
Okay, fine, whatever. Wireless interdimensional interface.
I also just love how these recaps are getting so intense as just things are piling up and piling up and piling up at this stage.
And now, Database Rangers
He
Power
can't
Review.
stop it. Oh, and of course we've got... Alright, I'm going to skip over the ad. Sorry about that. Yeah, as excited as I am for Guillermo del Toro.
Greetings, Ranger fans.
There we go.
I can't believe I'm doing this. And welcome to Power Reviews. I did that right?
This was a very fun way to cap the 50th episode.
You should listen to her. She's a doctor. By the way, what's this thing on my head again?
The laser optic illumination cerebral ray transceiver.
Did you intend for that to spell out lolcat, or is it just a coincidence? Does this happen
This is-
often?
All right, everyone just focus. The laser optic
This is so fun because it's
has already mapped
the characters who have spent so long trying to avoid doing reviews are now in a position where they need to do a review to bring back our main character to himself again.
Understood?
Yes. No.
Regardless, let's just try to get through this. Here.
This is, in many regards, just trying to celebrate what the show had been up until this point, before it completely changes as we switch over into the second half.
Developing an emotionally healthy outlet for a clearly erratic, obsessive, compulsive recluse. Don't forget delusional.
I think that's been largely disproven at this point.
You hear me saying this? No.
Just stick to the last card.
Okay. Let's see, mechanical abomination, propaganda, xylophonic yodeling zebras. Here we go.
Dr. K has a lot of notes.
Let us observe the penultimate chapter in this exceedingly lackluster saga with episode 19 of Power Rangers Megaforce, The Messenger. The Rangers are celebrating their recent defeat of Admiral Megaforce.
I just very much enjoy reverting to this very innocent version of Database Ranger.
Good to know you left such a big impression.
So, do any of these names ring a bell? I'm not sure. Were they all major villains?
Not the slightest. Byrox and Hisser were only present in one episode apiece.
Huh. I wonder why they would bring them up then. Who wrote this episode? Mark Handler.
I feel so bad about calling out Mark Handler. And yes, of course, because it is a big milestone, it is a low grade clip show episode.
Okay, I'm good now. Who wrote this anyway? Mark Handler. Isn't that the same guy who wrote?
And here we call back to my own callbacks.
I didn't remember being kind of insensitive. Words hurt, you know. And so do kicks to the face.
I love that line so much. That is such a beautiful guy line that I'm very proud of. Words hurt, you know, and so do kicks to the face. I had so much fun doing the callbacks to the kick in the face bit.
Why do I remember all this stuff better than I remember events in my own life?
Don't worry. It's perfectly natural for the memories most closely associated with your current activity to be the first to come back.
Also, I'm fairly certain you were like this before.
This is very true. He remembers Power Rangers better than he remembers his own life, and that is his defining character trait at this stage.
I'm not going to touch that one. Anywho, all self-reflection aside, it turns out they were right to worry about Metal Alice, who has gone hunting through the wreckage of the crashed warship and discovers that reports of Rock's demise were greatly exaggerated. I've always wanted to say that. I think I've always wanted to say that. Have I understood this before?
Not that I recall.
Look at me, I don't watch this show. All I know is that the
I love the meta moment of Guy just pointing out that he does not watch Database Rangers Power Reviews.
The encounter of battalion of
Like,
police, adding further
and you know what?
assumption that all conflict
Let's be honest.
and providing the Megaforce
You know, I'm not going to pretend that everyone in my life watches this show either. Like, it's not necessarily targeted for everyone. It is a very, very niche kind of show.
You just download that sort of thing right to someone's head, am I right? Yes.
Before long, the Megaforce Rangers morph and are joined by the droid Templar.
But this is very much where it was at the height of all the various mysteries that had sort of piled up at this point regarding the main cast.
I wasn't aware that this action required justification. Soon, the foot soldiers are defeated.
At this point, you know, we've sort of revealed who Guy is, whether K is real. We've unraveled a lot of who Database Ranger really is, which we of course address in the next episode.
Poor guy.
And then
Desperately to hold on
after
to some
this,
sense of personal identity
it really becomes a lot of trying to figure out what the next moves are from there.
Be a simple organic biomechanism.
No, that's not it. I think he's more of a straight-up cyborg. Glad I'll never need to know what that feels like.
Let's just stay on topic. Metal
And
Alice is
Guy doesn't know about this, so this is again just the characters. The characters have not been communicating up until this point, and it's just so fun having them sort of reveal these bits of information to one another, these bits of information to each other, without necessarily phrasing it in the clearest way.
Yeah, that incredible mind is totally still.
Also, that little clip was from Wolverine and the X-Men with the episode Rover, which is probably the best episode of that show, because it's when they hijacked a Sentinel to be their friend, but he still could only say destroy with different intonations.
It is here that Metal Alice
That was the kindest way that you've ever heard the word destroy.
Why? Didn't the forcible demorph already provide them enough opportunity for retreat?
One would think so, but apparently not.
Either way, after the Rangers have had some
It-
time
this
to
is-
remorph and do some
This
serious
episode of
training,
Megaforce is just
the
so
robots
oddly
finally
constructed in
decide
so
to
many
blast
ways
off
because
and
it's
check out to take
very
care of Brock.
clearly assembled
Luckily,
from
the
like
team is able to
3
hop
different
on
Ghost Sager
eventually spending
episodes.
flying Robo-Knight in the
So
living room
they're
Megaforce
just
plus
constantly
their
jumping
dynamic
around.
victory charge to take out the mission.
And that was one of the big issues with Megaforce as a whole. They kept trying to mash together all these different arcs from the source material rather than try and make the make sure that they were coherent.
The physical representation of a threat that may very well spell the end of every Ranger that's ever existed. Where have we seen that before?
Let's move on.
And everyone just keeps finding different things about this whole process that they're uncomfortable with. Obviously, that's a reference to the Messenger being voiced by Andrew Lang, who was the voice of Venjix and has since been the voice of Evox. I hope it's not a spoiler since it premiered on TV last week, but also the new voice of Lord Zed.
Remaining Rangers against Brock. Weird that they would need the most people to go up against the Amnesiac. Yes. Weird. Things are not going well.
They are both very aware that he's an amnesiac who can fight better than anyone else.
And the Red Ranger manages to drive off the envoy. The attacking forces effect a tactical retreat back to base.
Once there, Metal Alice again begins repairing Brock, expressing gratitude for the earlier rescue, before sending him off to observe images of his past to reset his mind and restore his lost memories.
Now, if only that sort of thing actually worked.
Have you ever heard that patience is a virtue?
Haven't you ever heard of cutting your losses? Haven't you guys ever heard of waiting until the show's over? I'd like to watch the end of the episode. Sorry.
Even Amnesiac, he's able to assert some authority when it comes to watching the Power Rangers.
Brock decides that 2 more battles against the Rangers apparently isn't enough.
I really liked making this episode about the interplay between Guy, Kay, and Database, because at this stage they were very much sort of the core trio for a good chunk of the show. Mayo was still not as central to the cast at this stage, and the same thing with the more Popsners.
Seriously? After all that talk of...
And explicitly stating,
And even being told by Malcor.
This
that wasn't what you said.
Another memory. Well, I suppose another
He's so excited that he can actually remember things.
Yes, they do.
No, it's not. No, you aren't.
And that's the end of our episode. So, what did you think of it?
Well,
And this is also sort of the first real like
Focus.
trio.
um,
And that was also a nice little bit of foreshadowing. Why did I just do the thing with my hands? He does it every episode,
I'm sorry, I've just never
and we
done
don't
this.
really know,
I guess I have, but
and we don't know yet why that's so ingrained in him until the next episode. That motion is his morphing sequence.
This episode repeatedly emphasizes the need to defeat the Megaforce Rangers before the arrival of the Armada, only for that goal to be completely abandoned at the last minute.
And of course, Kay and Guy need to be the ones leading this analysis.
Consistent portrayal of his memory, and the fact that the ultimate resolution was so simple that they easily could have taken care of it without him ever having to step outside the base. Yeah. Or how the opening sequence in their command center
But
simultaneously recognizes
I
and
do,
shows a startling lack of familiarity with
in
their
many
own
regards,
continuity,
kind of
just
miss
like in
the
episode
simplicity of the
1, or how
first
the
half of the
episode is
series.
overcrowded by having
Like,
three
this
different
is,
more
the
fight
3
sequences
people
without
sitting on the
allowing
couch,
Rangers time for
running
some
through an
reflection,
episode,
just like in episode 14.
Yes.
Exactly.
there's something so
And
nice
this
about that.
episode's all that. We've got a nifty unmorphed Loogie battle, just like in episodes 1 and 9, and another peek at the upcoming
And yeah,
Legends
all
War,
this
which
good
was
reference
planned
to all the
last
different
on episodes 1,
continuity
4, and 9.
of Megaforce up until this point.
That episode 16 was actually plot relevant. And although it's messily executed, Brock's story of recovery does serve to further the development of his relationship with Metal Alice, who is finally
Yeah, I believe
provided
episode
the
16. That
opportunity
was
to express her gratitude and undying loyalty for creation.
that was Rico the robot, I believe.
In episodes 15 and 17, we also see hints of Brock's reciprocated feelings as he comes to her defense, ironically accomplishing his first selfless act in the series after supposedly being stripped of all
I did
emotion.
like the relationship between Brock and Metal Alice for what it was until it kind of ended on a bit of a sour note.
Set the tone for the Gokaiger Sword's villains set to arrive next year for Power Rangers Super Megaforce. Super Megaforce.
Ignore him. Bring it on home.
There we go.
Overall, we have a fairly decent
He's finally gotten his
Although
analysis
it's a
back.
little overpacked with battle footage and seems to have a bit of trouble keeping all its facts straight.
So, a suitable penultimate episode of the season.
Oh yeah, very representative of Megaforce as a whole.
Does that mean you remember everything?
Yep.
Excellent.
Well, everything about Power Rangers Megaforce.
That is very on brand for me.
I adjusted the calibrations.
I'm sorry, guys. I wish I could remember you both. I really do. I just can't. But hey, maybe we should try again. I mean, that cliffhanger was pretty sweet, especially with that great shot from outer space.
And
Ranger.
that
Whoa,
memory
what
again.
was that?
Oh, what happened?
Did you remember something?
Yeah. There's something you two aren't telling me.
What are you talking
I'm not just some normal guy, am I?
about? Database.
No, he is not.
I'm sorry. I just need some air.
Wait.
Hi, database. Hi, Guy. Hi, Mayo.
And
Are you three having a costume party?
Yes.
No.
and
Okay.
We just wanted to.
Stop by
And-
and get this.
and the more Potsters,
And it found its way into our laundry basket.
Oh.
the
And this is
they just showed up like this to the shoot.
Thanks, guys.
I don't think I actually told them to dress up like this.
Seeing you again. Bye,
This-
everyone.
This was just how we decided would be how they handle their laundry. That it would be a complete disaster where they like set themselves on fire.
They're the more positive.
Okay.
And
What this is.
and them mistaking
I wrote a book.
mistaking Dr. K for Mayo because that's the first time they've ever seen Dr. K.
Mind-numbing over-analysis of children's television. Well, that's a terrible title.
And the callback to the very first episode and
And what better way to start off the new year than with
the New Year's resolutions.
My own right here. First up, I'd like to find a publisher. Next is
Recapping everything that's gone on across the course of the year
directly verified.
through something that foreshadowed all of it.
Or maybe I'll get some new neighbors. Next up is getting some cardio, a little running. That probably won't be until the
This
summer,
is probably one of the best,
or is,
sort of summaries of the year. And it was something that I very deliberately tried to set up from that first episode.
Guy, Kay, Mail. I need to.
And there's
Hi.
Mayo.
I tried to call you.
I know. I got your voicemail. I did. They really back?
They were, but we fought them off.
Really?
Hello, Mayo.
Guy?
Yeah, he was actually a real big help.
Yeah.
Really?
It's fine, Mayo. Everything is okay.
Oh, if everything is okay, then maybe I should just head home. Little Dagger's probably still scared silly.
Oh, little
My
Zagger.
cat. He must have got out when they, and then, well, when I got back, I realized he was missing, so I went looking for him,
And that's where Mayo's been this whole time.
yeah, I bet it is. But, database, about before.
I'm sorry about that.
No, you went through all that trouble to rescue me from that place, and then I freaked out because you're,
RA synth organic biomechanoid?
really?
Yeah.
Really?
Did I forget to mention that?
I got a lot of things.
It's true, he does
Why
forget a
didn't you
lot of
tell me
things.
about this?
I didn't know.
How could you not know?
I'm apparently very good at not knowing things.
I am extremely good at not knowing
Oh, you would be
things.
surprised at the vast quantity of stuff I have no idea about.
You don't say.
And don't even
It's
get me
just
started on the
such a
things I
good
don't understand. I
recap
don't
of
understand
like where we are at this series. Because I'm
Downright infectious.
a master of not knowing things.
There is one thing I do know.
What's that?
That I don't want either of us to have to be scared. So,
and
maybe
this is
for
just kind of
time,
everybody
I can tell you what I know. and you can tell me what you know.
reconnecting.
Maybe we can figure this all out together.
Hey,
Okay. Oh, now, if we're going to be honest with each other, then first things first.
Here we go.
There's someone I want you to meet. But I need you to promise not to freak out.
okay.
Thanks. Mayo, I'd like to introduce you to my oldest and closest friend, Dr. K.
Hello, Mayo.
Hello, me. You. Doctor.
Yeah.
Okay. Try not to freak out.
Take your time.
So
Okay.
so
still
freaky
there.
for her to
It's
meet
nice
herself.
To meet you.
Oh, I don't think.
I'm sorry. I am.
Oh, no, it is no thing.
Indeed. You see, the last time that.
Yep.
Belgium is that. Oh, no.
What's wrong?
And perfect little cliffhanger transitioning us into the new phase of the series.
What's going on? I have to temporarily shut down the long-range sensors in this modular system again. The only is now coming back online and.
And they found something?
Yes.
Well, what is it?
It's the end of the world. Here's to another 50 episodes. And that was the end of the first half of Database Rangers Power Reviews. And it really does feel fitting in many regards. It really does sort of mark that transition from the first half to the second half, when the show became very different in many regards. It stopped being localized in the apartment, focused on the actual reviews from day to day, and we started to roam outside of the building more and more. The characters are all united as a team at the end of this first half. They're committed to finally actually seeking out answers as opposed to trying to avoid them. Is that cat okay? Yes, Zagger is fine. Zagger is played by our cat Frankie, who is still chugging along strong. And yeah, that was the hint that Mayo had gone missing back at the end of 36 when Database went out to try and talk to her and found Zagger in the hallway and then saw one of the T agents leaving Mayo's apartment. And now Zagger is actually still. I know we don't see him anymore, really, but Zagger is still technically on the spaceship. Like, you know, we haven't. I haven't addressed it because it's one of those things where there's no real organic way to just kind of have Zagger around. So he's just wandering around the spaceship. They're taking care of him. Zagger's good. But yes, there is still a cat with all the characters traveling through the void of the hiatus. So that is still a thing. But yeah, it was really tricky sort of figuring out how best to manage this episode in certain regards. And the fact that I was reviewing a semi clip show for Megaforce did help a lot because it allowed me to tie things in pretty well. Yeah. I mean, so Lex, yes, many of the things the more partners do, they came up with. Anything they're saying, you know, obviously I wrote, and I love writing for the more partners. They're so much fun to write for. But a lot of times when it comes to things like costuming or set dressing, when it comes to their home, they just decide to go hog wild with it. And that's one of the things that have made them such great characters for all these years. I love the episode where they review an episode of Wild Force on their own, Fishing for a Friend. Because we got to play with some really weird stuff as far as just how their normal day is. You know, the show during the entire first half is very centered on Database, with anything focused around Dr. K or Guy or Mayo or the more Posners really about looking at things through the lens of Database as the central character. And one of the big things that I decided to do after this, which I don't think any other review show really does that I'm aware of, with the possible exception, I guess the only other show. I'll finish my sentence before I do the comparison. And then after the first half, I really tried to build it out into more of an ensemble piece, which was an incredibly difficult undertaking because it meant centering the show on people who were not me, and therefore I did not have as much control over their availability and their schedules, and how long things would take, etc., etc. And it became a lot more challenging then, along with dealing with the additional locations, the additional effects, all those different aspects. It made it more of a challenge. And outside of like the one arc in Atop the Fourth Wall where Linkara was kidnapped and he had his supporting cast covering him, and even in that case, most of his supporting cast was still him. I'm not aware of any other review shows that have really cycled through focus characters like the second half of Power Reviews has. We've had now multiple episodes where the review is done entirely without Database. And that is, not something that's really done during the first half, but during the second half. Once it was decided that all the characters would be coming together as a synchronized unit, I realized they all needed that extra development and that extra time to shine. And I like to think that every character is in some way someone's favorite. Obviously, MJ's gotten a lot of praise for Dr. K. I know some people love Guy's deadpan and the arc that he's had to go through. The more Postners are obviously fan favorites for just being so wacky. Mayo has gotten to be the very snarky, sort of token person from the regular world. And then just other side characters as well. Dr. C has been a blast. The directors, the secretaries, the various agents. We've had so many now. It's been a really interesting challenge building this ensemble series. And this was sort of that moment where it solidified as that. We had the housewarming party very early in year one, in episode 20, where they each kind of were properly all introduced together, and then they kind of went their separate ways again. But Dr. K wasn't really a part of that episode, and now, Guy knows who she is. Mayo has now been introduced to Dr. K, which is something that had been, sort of a long time coming. One of the big things with having so much foreshadowing during the first, quarter of the show is that it put a lot of pieces into place so that when those events finally started occurring towards the end of year one, it just felt so satisfying because we've been waiting for them for so long. It's like, okay, I can't wait to see these characters finally interact. I can't wait to see these characters finally interact. I can't wait to see this character finally find out about this thing. This character finally find out about this thing. And it is something that, unfortunately, has gotten lost in the second half of this series because the characters are so much more in sync then that you don't have that same tension. And I think that that's something that's true for a lot of shows. You can't maintain the exact same tension throughout the entire series. We found different things. Now we have, which is one of the reasons that the Landlord became such an important piece to introduce right at the beginning of year two, because we needed a new form of tension, a new source of tension that wasn't just the mystery of identity, but the mystery of the threat. And the Landlord continues to be that very unsettling mystery. of what his threat is. We're only just now finally starting to really understand as we're getting halfway through, as we are getting into these final 6 episodes. Yeah, the driver's seat. We get R Alpha and R Beta doing commentary through, or no, that wouldn't be the driver's seat. I think you're thinking of All Hail Prince Vicar. The driver's seat was when Database did the review as Venjix, and Dr. K was briefly back in her home dimension. But yeah, so the All Hail Prince Vicar, that was the one where R Alpha and R Beta got to get in on the commentary, which was fun. That really grew out of just my friend Rachel being very reliable and good to work with, and that's really how all of the recurring characters really develop. Is okay, I really need somebody to fulfill this story role at this particular moment, and then I'm like, okay, you know what? I need that. I need a character to fulfill this role again for this next chunk of the story, and might as well be the same character. And you know what? I like hanging out with you. I'm gonna make you a more recurring character. There are plenty of other characters that are played by friends of mine that I would have liked to see more. It was just sort of limitations of the story. But every character that did become recurring, one of the reasons for that was I just wanted to be hanging out with them more often. So like even the 2 different secretaries. One was that the first secretary just lost availability, and I had made a new friend, Peggy, who I'm like, okay, you know what? My current secretary is not been available because she has a very young child that she did not have when I first cast her, and it's been taking up a big part of her life, as parenting should. Would you like to be part of my show? I have an in-universe reason that I can provide for that. It'd be great to have you be a part of it. And yeah, Vicar was a very fun character in Super Megaforce, just for how absurd he was. So there we go, 50 episodes of Power Reviews. 44 episodes since then, over the course of the last almost 8 years, and we've got episode 95 right around the bend now. We're getting so close. 95 has really been a sort of a bottleneck point because it is such a difficult episode. 96 and 97, I know that I can do fairly smoothly, fairly quickly. They have their own challenges, their own different challenges, but there's much less work involved with them than there has been with 95. And then once I get past that, 98, 99, 100, the final 3 episodes, like 95 is sort of the thing I need to get through right now before I can really zero in on the finale. And we're almost there. And that's really kind of intimidating right now. Before we wrap up, I did want to address one quick little thing. I know I'd made mention of an audio glitch in episode 49, and then I didn't follow up on what the nature of that glitch was, and somebody in the comments was curious about it. The audio glitch in episode 49, where you can hear a voice speaking over my technopathic communications with Dr. K, that was literally, I had MJ speaking off camera so that I could time my reactions accordingly to the conversation that I was having in my head, and then I just forgot to remove that audio track of MJ reading off the lines for me. It was one of those things where I thought I had muted that track. I had it muted as I was going through the initial edits, then when I compiled everything together, I forgot to remove it, and that was just an oversight on my part. That was the source of that audio error. And of course, almost every episode has some sort of little editing glitch, little error here and there. It's what happens when, everything's being produced by a single person. I don't have people monitoring for continuity as I'm filming. I'm doing these always in such a rush just to try and get them out, so I don't often have time to really just sit down and watch the whole episode through to proofread it, to make sure that everything's clean every time. I try to squeeze in as much as I can, but to an extent, like sometimes the first time I really am seeing an episode all the way through is when I'm premiering it. Where I'm just like, okay, every single piece I've worked through, I've got it done. I'm just going to export it, and then I'll watch it and hope that I didn't miss anything. And yeah, it's weird to think of it that way, considering how much, how long it takes for so many of these episodes to come out. But for me, on my end, it's always a rush. Every time, every moment that I'm working on it, it's a rush to try and get through. And that's the limitations of, you know, being sort of a one-man production team for the better part of the production of the series. I've had the occasional assistant editor to assemble clips for me for the review chunks, but every effect, every, you know, shot of me and my characters has been something that I've had to set up and I've had to edit. And that's a big challenge. And I know I'm haven't done it always with to perfection, but just having been able to get through it, just having done it, it's an accomplishment I feel very proud of. You know, looking back on this first half of the series, when I was still working with the old JVC Averio camcorder, and my white balance was terrible, and I didn't have a tripod that could reach my height. You know, and my light was a desk lamp on top of some boxes on top of a table. All that. The fact that I'm able to look back on so many of these episodes from the first half of the series and feel still proud of them and still feel like they hold up well and still have these fond memories of them. This has been actually a really great experience. You know, I really want to do this commentary series to kind of build up hype for the finale. I don't know how effective that's been, because I don't think we've gotten probably anybody on board who was not already on board fully for gearing up for the finale. But it has actually been a really nice ride, going back to this memory lane. I know that it's only just a handful of you who are often here for it, but I appreciate you joining me on this little introspective journey of mine. I hope that we're able to get some good eyes on these final episodes. You know, the channel is currently sort of zeroing in on maybe getting up to 4,000 subscribers in a reasonable time frame, which would be amazing. You know, I think we're less than 150 subscribers away from 4,000 now, which, I mean, that's potentially, that could be anywhere from a month to 6 months. Who knows how long it'll take to get through to get another 150 subscribers. But I would love to see us hit 4K by the end of the year if we can. If there's anyone who is out there who hasn't subscribed yet, there's sometimes a tripod that consistently yeah, that's fair. The tripods do occasionally fall over then. This is true, Dave. Thank you for joining me, Dave. Good to see you. It's been wacky. Cameras falling over, tripods that fall apart, cameras that are in still several pieces, and Dave, thank you so much for lending me your camera almost a decade ago. I would not have made it through all this if you had not lent me that camera nearly a decade ago. Yes, yes, Lex, that is Dave. That is the actor for Guy there in the chat. Yes, my good friend Dave, who I hope is doing well, with his family. You know, he's been a busy man as well. Yes, Lex, it has been 2 weeks since the 9-year anniversary of the channel. So, yeah, I borrowed Dave's camera over 9 years ago, so almost a decade. And actually, I even borrowed the camera earlier than that because I originally made my first attempt to shoot the pilot episode like back in March of that year. I think I gave the camera back after the March filming didn't work out, and then borrowed it again later. But I owe you so much for this. Now, 50 more commentaries will be hitting right, means that we'll get one right on the, right after, the day after the 10-year anniversary. Because remember, there are 52 weeks in the year, and we are 2 weeks past the 9-year anniversary. So, another 50 weeks will be October 14th, the day after the 10-year anniversary, will be our final commentary. So we will be doing the commentary on episode 100 the day after the premiere of episode 100. The final episode is intended to come out on the 10-year anniversary. That is the goal. It will be, we are aiming for the 10-year anniversary, October 13th, 2022, to be the release of the final episode. That is what I've been working towards these last 50 weeks. That's what I intend to keep working towards during these next 50 weeks. So if 95 can come out in good time, if we can get 96 out right around New Year's, then 97 should be able to come out in the spring, 98 and 99 in the summer, and 100 on October 13th, 2022. I'm working towards it. It's been a struggle. I'm not gonna lie. And then Dave knows how much of a struggle it's been trying to find scheduling. You held off on like selling your car so that we could finish filming with it. That is insane. And that'll be 10 years before your 18th, 10 days before your 18th birthday. Cool. And yes, I have heard about High School Heroes. I've heard that it's a good show. I have not checked it out yet. I've got so much work ahead of me. There's so much I'm doing at the same time as everything else. But I think now is probably a good time to wrap it up, because I do have 2 videos to release for tomorrow morning for the 15th episode of Dino Fury, because I am not allowed to sleep. That is not a thing I can do. We all drive Priuses was just, I love that line just defined our entire like automobile budget for the show, which is borrow Dave's car every time that there's a car, unless it's driven by the more Posners. Okay. I am tired. I'm sure all of you have had a long week. I'm sure all of you are looking forward to trick-or-treating this weekend, and I'm sure you're also looking forward to the upcoming trailer for episode 95, as I'm finally able to announce that. So, let us close things out with our remaining 3 equally non-controversial phrases. So, number 1, say it with me, chat. Love is love. Number 2, say it with me, chat. Trans rights are human rights. And number 3, say it with me, chat. Robots are cool. Especially once they finally discover who they really are. So, thank you all again, and until next time, happy Halloween, Ranger fans, and farewell, and let the power protect you.